Welcome to The Reins of Leadership, the podcast dedicated to helping you lead with presence and influence with trust. I'm your host, Marinda Smith, business leadership strategist, sharing actionable insights on mindset, EQ and energy uniquely illuminated by wisdom gained alongside my equine partners. Hello and welcome back to The Reins of Leadership. And if you are new here, then welcome. I want to start today with a story that's a little personal. It's about a time when a mirror was being held up to my leadership, and honestly, I wasn't entirely proud of the reflection I saw. It happened when I came back to riding after a long break. I was so excited to be back in the saddle, to reconnect with that passion that had defined my childhood. And yet, when I climbed on, there was a sort of muscle memory that took over. I remember that I felt like I was starting to pick up right where I'd left off. And I brought with me that mindset that I'd been taught as a young girl, how to get my pony to do what I wanted. It was a language of control, of demanding, and if I'm being brutally honest, of force. Kick harder, pull shorter, and make it happen. But this wasn't my childhood pony. This was a new horse that I'd bought as an adult. He was a sensitive, powerful horse, and being that adult, bringing all that new experience with me, I could see the faults in that approach almost immediately. It didn't work any longer. Instead of a willing partner, I was creating a tense, resistant animal. And it was a constant battle. And if I'm honest, it was exhausting. The thing is, this feeling of frustration was strangely familiar to me. At the time in my career, I was a leader. And if I was honest, that same dynamic was playing out in my professional life. I would blame others for my own feelings of lack or for projects not going to plan. I was subconsciously creating a battle in various areas. I would be demanding and I would, maybe do the kick harder, pull shorter and make it happen. And so let's go back to my horse. And I remember this one competition so clearly. It was the moment where it all clicked. Before I even entered the arena, my mind started its usual frantic scanning for problems. I hadn't even saddled up yet. I was preparing my horse as it was tied to the float, and I became completely fixated on everything that I couldn't control. My internal monologue was a storm of worry. The ground is too hard, he might slip, that one horse in the warm-up arena is so disruptive, he's going to upset mine, listen to that wind, it's going to make him nervous. All of these thoughts. And I can imagine many more were in my mind as well. So my horse is tied to the float, and you can imagine I'm polishing my boots and polishing his bridle and putting on his saddle and everything. But the whole time I've got these thoughts in my head and he is jumping around. And the more I think, the more he jumps around. He wasn't worried about the ground or the other horse or whatever else that I had going in my head. He was worried about the tension that I was creating, and I was being that unpredictable leader, and I was about to get on his back. So his focus wasn't on the job ahead, it was on me. And of course, our performance suffered. Sometimes it would be a big spectacular failure, and others it would be a quiet fizzle of disconnection and tension. After a couple of these, many, if I'm honest, sessions, going out there and having this happen, I realised that we were working against each other and not with each other. So as I said, it took a few of those frustrating rides for the penny to finally drop, for me to work out in my head what was going on. And so when the penny did drop, it hit hard. It took me past the chaos of the competition moment into those quiet moments where I could see with clarity that the issue wasn't the ground, it wasn't the wind, it wasn't the other horse. The issue was the battlefield that I was creating in my own mind. And when I was focusing my energy on the war that I could never win, the war against the uncontrollable, my focus was entirely on things I had absolutely no control over. And that's what we're talking about here today. There's a powerful leadership model that puts a name to this exactly. It was devised by Stephen Covey, and it's called, you can see it either the circle of concern or the circle of influence. It's called both of them in various areas. So it's a beautiful, simple model. As I said, it comes from Stephen Covey. So first of all, I'd like you to picture two circles, one nestled right inside the other. The bigger outer circle is what he calls the circle of concern. And honestly, it's where most of us spend way too much of our time and energy. Think of it as the worry circle. It's filled with everything that keeps you up at night. And yet it's stuff that we can't really change. You know, the big stuff like the economy, the weather, what other departments are doing, the system. And it's often filled with little things like a difficult client's bad mood, or what you think people are saying about you, or what you think people are thinking about you. And it becomes overwhelming because in this circle, you're just a passenger. And then we get to the smaller circle that's inside that circle of concern. This smaller circle is called your circle of influence. This is your arena as a leader. It's the world of your team, your projects, and your key relationships. It contains all the things you can have a real impact on, even if you can't totally control them. Things like the morale of your team, the creative energy in a brainstorming session, or the outcome of a tough negotiation. And it's so easy to think, okay, this is where my power as a leader truly lives. But the question I want to ask you is, how do you do that? What is the actual tool you use to create that influence? And that's when I want you to picture one final circle, a tiny one, right at the very heart of the diagram, because it is the heart of the matter. And what's in that circle? It's you. It's your influence. Your influence is just the ripple effect of the choices you make right here at your very core. This is the absolute center of your power. It isn't about what you can influence, it's about what you can be. So think about what it takes to be a great leader. Where do your actions come from? They start with you. What about your mindset? And that's 100% you. The energy you bring into a room, it's all generated by you. How you prepare, how you communicate, how you learn, that's all you. Your ability to influence anything out there is a direct result of how you lead yourself in here. Inside this final fundamental circle, it's the difference between worrying about the weather and actually being with your horse. Let's look at a client example. And it's one I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the circle of concern. It's the client's bad mood. And so I want to give you an analogy between the bad mood and the weather. The client's bad mood is like the weather. You can't control the fact that it's raining, which is this in the circle of concern, and the client's bad mood. You can't control that. But you can absolutely grab an umbrella and put on a raincoat. And then from there, you can control your actions, your mindset, your energy, and how you prepare and how you communicate with this client and decide to have a productive day anyway. That's your circle of influence. A leader who gets this distinction doesn't get flustered by the rain. A leader stuck in the circle of concern sees the client's mood and thinks, oh no, they're angry. This meeting is ruined. Why are they always like this? And then from those thoughts, you get defensive and energy becomes reactive. And when someone's in that reactive place, they start to try to stop the rain, which is totally impossible. You have no control over it. Yet a leader operating from the circle of influence sees the client's mood and thinks, okay, I see they're upset. I will start by listening. I will remain calm. What can I do or say right now to show I understand and am here to help? In the example, they're grabbing their umbrella. So putting a client's bad mood in the circle of concern isn't about giving up. It's a strategic move. It frees you from the exhausting and impossible task of trying to control other people's feelings and allows you to pour 100% of your energy into the only thing that you can actually make a difference, your own response. So I just want to go through how this shows up in the workplace, and you can hear it in the way that people talk. You can tell almost instantly if a leader is stuck in their circle of concern. Their language is often passive, frustrated, and full of questions that are really just complaints in disguise. It might sound like, why is my team so unmotivated? When is corporate finally going to approve our budget? This whole project is doomed because of the market conditions. Do you hear that? It's the language of waiting, of helplessness. It places all the power and responsibility out there somewhere, with the team, with higher up in the organisation, with the marketplace. It's dropping the reins, so to speak, and hoping that the horse just figures out where to go. But a leader who is consciously operating from this circle of influence sounds completely different. Their language is active, it's curious, and it's always focused on action. Instead of complaining, they ask powerful questions like, what's one thing I can do today? This is the circle of you, to connect with my team and understand what's going on for them. How can I build a stronger case for our budget to give it the best chance of success? Okay, given the current market, what's one clever pivot we can make to get an advantage? See the shift? It's the move from being a victim of your circumstances to being the leader of your response. It's about picking up the reins that are right there in front of you and taking that very next step. And as you know, it always comes back to the horse for me. The horse is the most honest mirror that you'll ever find in your leadership. And it doesn't care about theories. It only cares about what it feels and the energy that's being put out there. So I want you to picture this. You're riding out in the bush or on a trail, and up ahead there's a spooky corner. Maybe it's a dark patch of trees, a weird looking rock, or a plastic bag caught in a branch. Doesn't matter what it is, your horse sees it, and you feel that jolt of tension under the saddle. So you look up and you try to see what it's focusing on. Now, the old version of me, the leader stuck in her circle of concern, would have done one thing. I would have fixated on that corner. I'd stare at it. I'd start thinking, oh no, he's going to spook. What if he spins? This is going to be a disaster. He's going to gallop off. He's going to snort. What if I fall off? All of those things. And as I'm thinking all of that, my body is betraying me. My shoulders tense up. My grip tightens in my legs, on the reins, and maybe I'm inadvertently holding my breath. So what does my horse feel? He feels a tense, unpredictable leader on his back who's staring at something terrifying. He knew it was terrifying, and now it is. He's definitely knows it is. He doesn't care about the corner itself. He cares about the fact that his leader is scared of it. And I'm focused on the one thing that I can't control, the corner. And this has created a real problem with the one I'm supposed to be leading. And so now we're both focused on the problem. But the leader who understands her circle of influence and that innermost circle of you does something radically different. She sees the spooky corner when the horse tenses up. She acknowledges it, and then she brings her focus right back to that tiny, powerful circle of self. She takes a conscious deep breath. She reminds herself to soften her hands on the reins, not so they're totally let go, but they're just soft and reassuring. She shifts her gaze past the corner to where she wants to go, and she applies a gentle, steady pressure with her legs that says, "I'm here, I've got you, we're going this way." She doesn't try to control the corner. She controls her own breath, her own reactions, her own body, and her own focus. And the horse feels that instantly. He feels a calm, confident partner who isn't worried. He feels a clear, quiet signal telling him where to go. And because his leader is leading him from a place of influence and not from a place of fear, he draws his confidence from her. And together they walk right on by. He might look at the thing that he was staring at, but he just keeps walking. And that right there is the entire model in a single moment. So my question to you as you finish this episode is, what is your spooky corner at work? And for this week, is it a difficult conversation, a looming deadline, a market you can't control? And instead of staring at it, consider how you can bring your focus back to your own breath, your own actions, and your own clarity. How can you be the leader who guides your team safely past it, not by fighting the corner, but by mastering yourself? What is one action, no matter how small, that I can take within my circle of influence that relates to this? Don't try to solve the whole problem. Just take one small step with the reins you actually hold. And that's it for this episode. Thanks for joining me on the Reins of Leadership. Remember to lead with presence and influence with trust. Subscribe for more insights and find resources at mirindasmith.podia.com.